Welcome back, everyone. Your host, Mitch, presented by Notorious Pools Radio. And I'm here with my good friend, co-host Simon, aka Success with Simon. Please follow him on Instagram. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going over UFC Fight Night, Cory Sandhagen versus Rob Font. And this fight will be taking place in Nashville, Tennessee at the Bridgestone Arena. But before we get into it, guys, if you are new to our show, please leave a like, follow, and subscribe on all social media platforms. And let's get into it. So UFC Fight Night, Cory Sandhagen versus Rob Font. And obviously, we know that this is not the fight that was supposed to be here in the main event. It was supposed to be Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov. But obviously, Nurmagomedov had to pull out, and Rob Font is in. And this is what we're going to be breaking down. So obviously, you know Sandhagen is a top 5 guy.
Yeah, 100%.
And Rob Font is a very game bantamweight in the division.
You can put him top 10 too, honestly.
No, he's a...
You can in there. You can slip him right in there too. He's a motherfucker. That's what he is.
For sure. Obviously, Sandhagen has been, on a tear, picking up a lot of big wins against guys like Marlon Vera, guys like Song Yadong, which I had big hopes for, and that is a big banger in the bantamweight division. And obviously, he's picked up super tough losses to guys like the champion Aljamain Sterling, Peter Yan, and TJ Dillashaw, of course. Rob Font is obviously no slouch himself. He's obviously a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has 20 fights, 6 losses, obviously a huge veteran in the sport, and had a really, really big win his last fight against a huge prospect, and that is Adrian Yanez. I mean, that kid was on an absolute tear before he got into the ring.
Rob Font. I'm telling you, dude, Rob Font is like, you can't, it's very rare when you go from a main event card like Usman to Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov, but then you get a replacement that's as good of a card, right? Rob Font is that guy, not for nothing. I think this is a great stylistic matchup for both of them because it's gonna test 2 things. Can Sandhagen keep moving and hitting, and can Rob Font stop somebody that moves and hits? I think that's going to be a really big thing to judge, and I think the fans win no matter what in this scenario. Rob Font, like I mentioned before, is a motherfucker. He's a tough bastard. He's going to come at you and fight his way through, right? Look at Ricky Simon win, Marvin Marias, and Cody Garbrandt. Only 2 people in his last 5 fights that he lost is Jose Aldo and Vera, which, like, very good high-quality opponents. You can understand where that goes, and he didn't lose without going out on the shield. Cory Sandhagen, we mentioned the 3 other losses, but who did he lose to? Petr Yan when he was on a rampage. And then you have TJ Dillashaw, which give respect where respect is due. I thought Sandhagen took that one, but the judges, never leave it up to them, but they saw it differently. Frankie Edgar win, Song Yadong win, Vera win. A game fight to just have it in the main event is amazing.
What I love about this matchup the most is both of these guys are very lanky bantamweights. Obviously Sandhagen is probably one of the biggest bantamweights in the division. Super tall guys like 5'11", makes 135 like nothing. He's one of the most trickiest opponents in the 100%. Octagon because of his footwork. He's nonstop switching stances, throwing punches at different angles.
Kind of like a new age Dominic Cruz.
Like a Dominic Cruz, but also has a very, very good ground game. True. I think he's super solid on the ground, training out of Denver, Colorado, high altitude. Guy can fight 5 rounds like nothing.
And keep pressing on you.
Rob Font, what I love about Rob Font is that boxing. He got that huge left hand. He can fight out of traditional, he can fight out of southpaw. And he's a good pressure fighter, and he's a big body puncher.
See, this is why I think that the fans might have got a better fight night than they would have got with Nurmagomedov. and Sandhagen, because you have two people that will keep pressuring you, except one has like let's call it the more classic style of just push 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 on you like Font does, where Sandhagen is playing the circle around you and keeping you guessing on where and how he's going to get to you. So I think it's going to be head-on collision. It's definitely the fight of the night, in my opinion. It's going to be a banger no matter what. I just hope it doesn't end in the first round. We can get 2 rounds out of it, boys. Please. That would be really good.
So what's your prediction on that fight? Who do you think's taking? Who's
You
getting
know
the
what's
hand raised?
crazy? I think Rob Font's going to win. Not for nothing. If he can stop if he can get some leg kicks on him and keep Sandhagen off his back, because I have a feeling that Sandhagen's going to try to not withstand the power. He's not going to like it. He's going to try to get around him, take him from, take him from the back, try to get a neck or an arm, and go from there. I think Rob Font probably going to take it, man. Just keep pressure forward till he hits the back of the cage, honestly. How do you feel? What's your take on it?
I'm going to have to go the other with Sandhagen.
Really?
I just think he's performed much better with higher level opposition.
Fair enough.
He is just like been a little bit unfortunate. Like he's been scratching at that title like Smeagol from Lord of the Rings. You know, it's just like just when he gets his chance
He has to fall a
to
little
touch
bit.
the precious, and it just gets ripped away from him by like one of the hobbits.
Piotr
You know,
just has to
just
come
one
in
of
and
these
stop him.
bantamweight
Yeah.
hobbits just takes that dream away from him.
I can see where you're coming
So
from.
I
man.
just believe that he is just a half a notch better than Rob Font, and that's why I believe that he will get that win. But that's what I'm saying. I love to agree to disagree, and I
get it,
believe Rob
100%.
Font is also very game. Another interesting matchup that I want to break down is the co-main event, and that's Jéssica Andrade versus the undefeated Tatiana Suarez.
Yeah.
So obviously Andrade, former champion, is obviously on a 2-fight losing streak. She got literally knocked out by Yan Xiaonan. And that girl is on a tear. You know, like what a more exciting fighter, you know, to watch than Yan Xiaonan. And you know, Andrade is a beast. She comes into the octagon like a fucking bulldog.
Yeah, bat out of hell, right?
It's like you can't even put a chain on this chick. She got a bull collar. She needs, you know, like yo, she is a beast.
I was gonna make a Melvin Manhoef reference, but like, yeah, it's somehow she comes in more intense than he does. Like, Mike's gym holding you on a dog collar. She needs a bull collar, something higher, 100%.
Like she is a super game opponent.
Yeah.
She's fought in multiple divisions, from strawweight to flyweight to bantamweight.
And the highest in each of those divisions. Too.
Exactly. She's always fought on the top of her game. She obviously lost to another very talented opponent, and that's an Erin Blanchfield, who's been a submission machine. She's local New Jersey girl, obviously killing it. Suarez is undefeated.
Tearing.
She's had a long break before coming back, and she had a beautiful win against Montana De La Rosa via submission. I mean, for the woman, I love when they get these type of big fights, because not every fight is obviously the most exciting fight, but I do believe this one is going to be a good fight.
Yeah, 100%.
It's hard to wrap my head in it, because you have someone so experienced versus someone
10 fights
who's undefeated and is on that like high train. You know, like she has that Mamba mentality that like she has to protect that undefeated record.
I feel her 100%, and I want to give Suarez like not a shout out, but also some more accolades to her 10 fights. It's 10 fights undefeated, 5 in the UFC. Here's a couple of her wins. De La Rosa being the most recent, Nunez right before that, Esparza right after that, and that's just the most recent 3 that I have. But it's some big names. She took out Carla Esparza, who was the former champion now. She took out Nunez, who's also a contender, and De La Rosa, who was building her way to the top. This isn't just a regular girl, regular woman that's just, oh, you know, another hype train. No. She has a lot of backing to her, and she has some credible wins under her belt as well, man. This is going to be a banger. It's a striker versus a wrestler. It's going to be the go ahead with your hands, or somebody that's going to probably try to take you down and submit you, man. I don't know. I think that personally, I think Suarez is going to take it. I think Andrade's hands would be good for her, but the fact that Suarez has the length on her, she has submission prowess in general. I was going to say more for takedown and attacking submission. She has the prowess to be on the ground, which is the base for MMA. She has longer reach, which has always given Andrade a problem, and she's standing at a southpaw. It's like the worst matchup for Andrade to happen is there. Plus, she has a little bit of crispy power in her hand, so I'm giving it to her. What do you feel like?
I have to agree. I really, this as much as I love rocking with the veterans, I really love this prospect. She's just really has all the tools and pieces to really be a top contender in her division. I mean,
and it hurts to say about Andrade too, by the way. It kind of hurts. How could you, like, I don't even want to go against her. She just puts on a show, but it kills me to say that, kind of, honestly.
In my opinion, she just has a little bit of that short stature, and these fighters are essentially right now beating her to the punch. And she's just, in the game of, not even, inches, of millimeters, it just takes that half a second for her to get clipped when she's throwing big, because she throws to knock you out.
Yeah, 100%.
She's not looking to touch you up. She's looking to ice out her opponents.
And you first round, put you to sleep, 100%, dude.
Grab you, drop you, inflict damage, and she kind of gives it her all right away. Yeah. And I feel like a high IQ fighter will always find their way and will counterpunch their way to a victory
1,000%.
Against her.
Yeah, especially with a little bit of range. Like, you can't, it's hard for her to get around that. She's been getting trouble with that her whole career. Look at the Zhao Yan fight. That's exactly what happened. She came in on it, put her out with a, like, what was it, a straight or a hook or something very simple and basic, and just ended it from there. So Suarez, you're probably going to get the nod, dude.
One of the next really exciting fights is, obviously, we got some big boys coming up, and that is Dustin Jacoby versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. And obviously, Dustin Jacoby, he's been in MMA since 2010. He's been a professional kickboxer also. He has a very solid record, 18-7.
Yeah.
And he has had 11 wins by knockout. So he is a big, heavy puncher. He's a big guy, and he is a very tough fighter. He's obviously on a 2-fight losing streak versus his last fight to Azamat Murzakanov.
Yeah.
And I mean, that fight was insane. I mean, Murzakanov, I thought he was going to kill him. I mean, like, if anyone rewatched that fight, I mean, I think that guy broke his arm.
Just punching Jacoby,
he
right?
broke his arm, and they were wrestling, and they were fighting. I mean, it was a brutal fight. And he obviously still made it to a decision when, at so many times, I thought that fight was
supposed to be over.
And even Murzakanov in the post-fight interview was like, "Yo, what's this guy made out of?
What do I have to do?"
Yeah, like But it also shows the level as you climb up the rankings. It's harder and harder to put away the top guys.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, these guys have that more of that dog in them, and they're not going to lay down as easy as some of the fighters outside of the top 15.
Of course. I was just going to say, why would you give up that ranking? Do you know how hard it was for them to get that ranking, and you think that because you're coming up, I'm supposed to give it to you? And I feel like that's a good segue to Kennedy. I can't even pronounce your last name, dude. Sorry. But that's a good segue to Kennedy, because he came in like I remember when he first came into the UFC, I want to say 2-3 years ago, probably a little before that. He came in strong, dude. Tall, lanky, great power in his hands. And if he can keep you on the floor or even get on top of you, he's going to give you punishment. Then you have a great fighter like Dustin Jacoby. Last 3 fights, 2 lost skid right now, 3 wins before that. Some pretty competitive guys. He's going to have his work cut out for him, dude. But I think if he can get Kennedy down, or even start getting into grapple play, like cage play, and working away from the distance and range from Kennedy and taking that away from him, Jacoby could pull it off on a crazy upset, dude. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even a body shot or something like that. Just to forget chin checking him, maybe you should give him a little gut check, give him a little knee, a little uppercut to the sternum, see what happens from there.
The way I see this fight going, what I like about Kennedy, he's had 8 fights by knockout out of the 12.
Yeah.
Very high finish rate. But he's also a good submission specialist, and he has that good, guillotine. He wraps these guys up. He has really long arms. The only thing is that after a fight that I saw against Murzakanov, I just don't think Kennedy has that dog in him
to put out.
Jacoby.
Really?
He's just that fucking tough.
I would kind of agree with you. If you look at a couple of his past fights, you can see that he breaks. He doesn't get what he wants, and then the snap happens mentally. And you can kind of see him giving out on a couple of his prior fights. I do agree with you. He has better takedown accuracy at just going for it and better takedowns in general. And he's a strong guy. So if Kennedy grabs a hold of you in a bad position, he'll probably try to break his way through you. If he doesn't, that's where we usually see a decline in most fighters, including him during his fighting abilities.
We're agreeing because I just think Jacoby's the better stand-up fighter. I think
I would disagree with that part.
Because I believe that his long, extensive kickboxing career plays a big role, and what's kind of hurt him was his ground game. And I believe if he can keep this fight on his feet, he keeps his back off the cage.
Yes.
And he's very nice in the clinch. I think he can really grind his way through and get a finish.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
That's the way I see it.
I would agree with everything you're saying, but the one thing where I think that Kennedy gets the nod on and why I think Kennedy's probably going to take it is just because of the reach. If he can utilize those lanky hands, I think he has like at least 3-inch reach advantage. If he can utilize on that and keep Jacoby away, honestly, he can probably test that dog again another fight. We'll probably get a nice 3-rounder. Somebody's going to be really bloody, and the other guy's going to be jabbing him away straight to death. So, I'm honestly, I have to go with Kennedy here. I think he's going to take it because of his range. But I agree with you. If Jacoby can get past it and can get him on that clinch play, we might have a different story coming up on Saturday, man.
One of the next fights I want to go over is, again, more big boys, light heavyweights, and we have Tanner Boser versus Alexa Camur. And obviously, Boser, big veteran. Obviously, he just came down his last fight where he lost to Ian Kudalaba at light heavyweight. But I don't want to judge him off his first fight in a new division. Because obviously, making weight is, different for everybody, has a lot of damage on their bodies. And he's obviously also on a 2-fight losing streak. And pretty much in his last 5 fights, he's only picked up 1 win. So
over OSP.
OSP, but
in the second by knockout.
It doesn't matter, but in my opinion, he's on the chopping block.
Yeah.
He is absolutely on the chopping block, and I think he's fighting for his job. Alexa Camur, he's a young guy. And he's had a beautiful Dana White Contender Series finish with a flying knee.
That's 100%.
Then his UFC debut, he picked up a win. But he's been on a 2-fight losing streak.
True.
And I haven't been able to see him put any big finishes or see any type of scary power from him where he's been able to take out his opponent. Nonetheless, him being the younger fighter and continuously growing and being more of the natural light heavyweight and having that amazing wrestling background, I do believe he is going to grind down Tanner Boser and pick up that win.
I 100% agree with you. I think that though Tanner Boser is a 20 win, 10 loss, 1 draw column, he has 30 fights, a lot of experience. That's very good. I think that how he's been presenting himself in the UFC hasn't been the best, right? Out of 5 fights, 1 win. A notable name, OSP is a notable guy. I don't think he has what it's going to take for the MMA stylings of Alexa Camur. I think that because he trains in the Stipe camp, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Because it is a game of variety, it is a game of submissions, takedowns, punching, kicking, and everything mixed in together. The kind of one-wayness of Tanner Boser, his karate is nice. He has some awkward punches that land at you at some slick little angles. It's kind of really cool. Great, phenomenal kicks. You can't get a read on whether it's low, high, or middle. I don't think it's gonna be good to rely on his grittiness to get past Alexa Camur. I think that Alexa's gonna come at him. He has better. Listen to these stats. Better significant striking percentage, better significant striking accuracy than Boser, better takedowns than Boser, better takedown accuracy than Boser. He's proven himself in a couple of his pro fights before the UFC, going to 2-3 round fights, winning I think he won a championship belt in his in one of the earlier promotions, and he has the combined skill to make it a nightmare night, a nightmare, possible one rounder. Honestly, I would be surprised if we get 3. I think it's going to be one and done for Kimura, and he's going to come out with a submission win on that.
I completely agree. And for the last fight that I want to break down with you is obviously the featured prelim of the night. And a lot of people don't understand. This is the one. I'd rather be the featured prelim than even on the main event. I just feel like
no way.
Not the main event. I'm saying being on the main card.
How about this, feature prelim or first fight on main card? Which would you rather?
I kind of like the featured prelim.
I would agree with you on that too, man. You're the main event. You're the main event in a sense, right? You're the starter and the closer.
Exactly. So having that like featured prelim, I think that's a really, really nice slot.
It's a big, you know what? It's a really big jump. Did Nas have that also? Then you go contenders to featured prelim to first fight.
Yes.
And look at the jump, man. Look at the jump. You can't
Absolutely.
It's a very good callback. Fair enough. And what a fight too, man. Billy Quarantillo versus Damian Jackson. Experienced dudes. You got about 40 some odd fights in between both of them. Quarantillo 17-5, Damian Jackson 22-5. What can you say, man? Mitch, you put me on this card. Please take it away.
So obviously, I'm a big fan of Billy. I like his style. He trains with a lot of the local guys at Law MMA. Trains down in Tampa Bay with Matt Arroyo.
Nice.
And obviously, his last loss was against Edson Barbosa.
To a name, a big name.
And obviously, you know, in the game of inches, he just walked into like just a shotgun of a knee, took him out. But one thing about Billy, he takes his losses on the chin.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he doesn't look for any tune-up fights. He's going against Damon Jackson, who's also coming off a loss to Dan Egate. But prior to that, was on a little bit on a 3-fight win streak.
3-4 fight win streak.
The thing about Damon Jackson, what I love about watching him, is that he's in the UFC. He fought for PFL. He fought for Bellator. He fought for LFA. I mean, the guy has been in the best promotions in the United States.
Literally building up to higher and higher standards and levels.
Exactly.
You couldn't ask for a better like level increase type of scenario when it's leveling up.
Absolutely. He's fought, you know, top guys. He is a super game opponent.
Yeah.
And I think this matchup by the UFC is absolutely outstanding. I mean, both guys are coming off losses, but both guys are coming off losses to respectively guys who are in, you know, the top 15 in the featherweight division.
Yeah.
So in a sense, these guys are both hovering right outside and they're like scratching.
They're biting.
They're biting, clawing just to get into that top 15 slot. So I do believe this is a huge fight. And to me, this can easily be a fight of the night.
Yeah, 100%. Without a question.
These two guys are going to bring the heat. And I mean, Damon Jackson he either comes in to kill you or you're knocking him out.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't really go down any other way.
It's difficult.
You either got to put him out or he's going to put you out.
1000%.
I mean, there's nothing in between with him.
Especially with his good jiu-jitsu background, like you can't. He's hard, man. He's tough, and he's not tough in a dumb way too. To last 22, he has 28 fights altogether, 22-5-1. To get 22 victories in any sort of combat sport, MMA, kickboxing, boxing, whatever the case is, you're gotta fight names and you have to beat people. His biggest challenge to date was Dan Ige in his last fight. I would really like to see what happens from here moving forward. And I only say that because I'm looking at Billy Quarantillo and I'm looking at his 5 last fights. His loss, win, loss. Last in order, 1, 2, 3. Edson Barbosa loss, win. Alexander Hernandez loss. Shane Burgos. It's exactly like you said. The guy just is building a reputation and name for taking hard motherfucking fights. And he's a hard-nosed bastard as well. I think Quarantillo is going to win, to be honest with you. I think because he's not, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but because he's not overly skill-pointed into one aspect of MMA, I think his striking will take him a couple places. I think if he stays on his feet, he can make it a real bad night for Damon Jackson. And if he breaks through a submission and gains that confidence on the floor, I think we're going to have, like you said, an amazing fight. Two 34-year-olds going at it, probably going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if they get the 50K by the end of it, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. What I love about Billy, I mean, he's just like a zombie.
Yeah.
Dude's got a chin on him. I mean, obviously, no one's really put out Billy Quarantillo other than Edson Barbosa.
True.
I mean, this dude got a...
And look who it takes to take him out.
Exactly. Guy has had a granite chin. Obviously, Damon Jackson, he's very game. But some of the big names, I mean, prior to the knockout by Dan Ige, he got literally laid out by Ilia Topuria.
Another bad motherfucker.
Who's a beast.
Yeah, dude.
You know, so Damon Jackson, I mean, to put him out, you got to be top. You have to be a killer.
True.
To put out Damon Jackson, because I consider Dan Ige, this guy
also a monster.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
You know, he's a beast featherweight. So, but nonetheless, I'm still gonna have to rock with Billy Quarantillo on this fight.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really exciting card to watch. So I want all you guys to tune in. Comment, let us know who you think is going to win on this card in the main event and all the fights that we discussed. I mean, I had an amazing time with my co-host Simon. Make sure you follow him at Success with Simon on Instagram. And guys, remember, if it ain't notorious, I don't want it. This is your host, Mitch, from Notorious Pulls Radio. And the best way to support us is to like and follow, subscribe us on YouTube if you want to keep the show going every week. Remember, we have some of the best merchandise, so give us a click and give us some support. Thank you. We'll see you soon.